Today, I'm going to be reviewing Kamala Harris's proposed economic policies regarding what she describes as price gouging in response to inflation. Before I explain more of her proposed policy outline, let's hear a little bit from her speech.
And today, I will focus on one element that's on the minds of many Americans as they pay their bills at the kitchen table or walk the aisles of a grocery store, and that is lowering the cost of living.
Kamala starts this portion of the speech off by saying that she wants to focus on lowering the cost of living, which is interesting considering that in this same speech she has already bragged about the Biden administration creating 16 million new jobs and lowering inflation to below 3%.
As president, I will take on the high costs that matter most to most Americans, like the cost of food. We all know that prices went up during the pandemic when the supply chains shut down and failed. But our supply chains have now improved, and prices are still too high.
This is a valid question. Why are prices still high despite improved conditions since the pandemic? The main cause of inflation is the $500 billion that the Federal Reserve has dumped into the economy since the start of the pandemic. It also doesn't help that they doubled their total assets when the pandemic started, inflating the value of treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. Lastly, interest rates were at near zero from the start of the pandemic to 2022, meaning companies and individuals could essentially borrow money for free, which artificially inflated buying power, meaning both demand and prices stayed high.
Many of the big food companies are seeing their highest profits in 2 decades. And while many grocery chains pass along these savings, others still aren't. Look, I know most businesses are creating jobs, contributing to our economy, and playing by the rules. But some are not. And that's just not right. And we need to take action when that is the case.
Kamala is insinuating that the reason that profits are increasing for grocery chains is because they are overcharging their customers and enhancing their margins. However, the amount of profit a company makes has no correlation to the price of the products it sells. For example, both Gucci and Shein made comparable profits last year, both over $2 billion. But that doesn't mean necessarily that Gucci made more profit because they charge more for their items. If Gucci made more in profit, it's because they have a bigger difference in expenses and revenue than Shein did, probably through a mix of marketing efforts, price adjustment, and cost reduction. Gucci charges more for their items because the price of the item is directly tied to the cost of creating that item and the demand from the customer, not the profits of the company. Yes, prices are a key factor in determining a company's profit margin, but prices are largely driven by consumer demand and not arbitrarily decided by the company. To put it simply, if a store knows you'll buy a gallon of milk for $4, why would they sell it for $3? And if they could just keep upping the price to fatten their margins, why wouldn't they just sell it for $5 or $6?
As president, I will go after the bad actors, and I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food. My plan will include new penalties for opportunistic companies that exploit crises and break the rules.
So Harris goes throughout her speech saying that cost of living is too high, cost of food is too high, and that companies are seeing record profits, and insinuating that it's due to their high prices. And it seems that her proposed solution is to institute laws against price gouging. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what price gouging is, it's when companies drastically raise the price of a product beyond what's considered reasonable, usually in a specific area and due to a particular event, such as a natural disaster. The weird thing about what Harris says here is that some form of price gouging regulation or consumer protection laws are already present in all 50 states. It's the reason why toilet paper was unavailable during the COVID-19 pandemic. Instead of raising prices as the demand went up, stores simply ran out and then rationed the remaining items to one per person. So it seems like Kamala is conflating price gouging with companies simply raising the prices yearly in order to keep up with demand. We don't currently have a price gouging problem. So it seems like what she's really trying to institute are price controls. This is when the government arbitrarily sets a maximum price that can be charged for certain goods. And this isn't just my opinion. Catherine Rampell of the Washington Post wrote this article suggesting that Kamala's price control proposal is aligned with communism. Everyone's favorite former CNN host, Chris Cuomo, had similar to say.
Her opponents are going to say, no, this isn't gouging. This is having government control prices. The broader idea of market control, that's what she's talking about. That's tough to sell and tough to do.
Now, whether she actually means to enact policies against price gouging or this is just a front for her to institute price controls, either way, this will not make everyday necessities more affordable to the average American. The reason price controls, in this case price ceilings, don't work is because they artificially inflate demand, which in turn creates a shortage in supply, leading to scarcity of the items in question. What you see here is a basic supply-demand graph. The red line represents demand for an item and the blue line represents the supply of it. When a company produces enough of a product to meet the demand of it, that's when we reach the equilibrium point on the graph, which is the point where the two lines meet in the middle. This is the price at which every individual who wants this item can purchase it. When a price ceiling is instituted, as Kamala wants to do, because the price is now lower than the equilibrium, the demand increases, as the item is now sold at a discount. As a result, the supply decreases. 1, due to shortages caused by artificially inflated demand, and 2, because the product is now less profitable. The gap that you see in between the two lines at the price ceiling is indicative of the shortage that would be caused by it. Economist Milton Friedman put it simply. He said, "We economists don't know much, but we do know how to create a shortage. If you want to create a shortage of tomatoes, for example, just pass a law that retailers can't sell tomatoes for more than 2 cents a pound. Instantly, you'll have a tomato shortage."